Welcome to Brian and Ben's Barbecue and Bourbon Podcast. Today is Easter Sunday, and we just got a nice ham on the smoker today. Brian, you want to give us a little intro of what you did today and what we had on the smoker?
Yeah, so we got a spiral bone-in ham. First ham that I've actually smoked. We've done brisket, ribs, the typical barbecue, the barbecue menu. A guy that we follow is his name is Malcolm Reeves. He actually does a YouTube channel called How to Barbecue Right. So he had a
very cool guy. You should go check him out. Highly recommend it. Yeah. I think that's taken our barbecue to a whole nother level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say, never trust a skinny barbecue. Never trust a skinny pit boss.
That man has some sausage fingers.
Yes, he does.
It translates really well into his cooking.
Yes,
for sure. Tell me about some of that seasoning and some of the glaze you had on that ham today.
So as far as the seasoning, it was a honeybee barbecue rub. Not as salty as I'm used to, which was good because the ham has enough salt in it anyway.
Hitting it pretty hard on some of the salty things from time to time.
Yeah, one of the things I found, the smaller the piece of meat, the less rub you want to put on it. And of course, a ham is a pretty large chunk of meat, so it can handle a lot of seasoning.
And it gets to a point of that thickness where like you can't go too much.
Right.
I feel the same way about brisket. I mean, sometimes maybe if it's in the flat section, you might have a chance of that going a little bit too much. But really, a big cut like that's juicy, you really can't overdo it. But I mean, like as we've done wings before in the past, it can be pretty difficult trying to figure out how much seasoning to put on stuff like that. But anyway, the ham was great. Did you mention the glaze?
Yeah, so the glaze was a cherry apple habanero glaze.
Very good.
From cannot remember the name of it.
It's like a jelly, like it's a good jelly type of flavor. I don't know. We tasted it straight up. It was like a sweet and sour sauce almost.
Yeah,
with a little bit of kick.
Slight hint of habanero right at the finish, but mostly it was sweet. Hold on. Yeah, so the honey or the glaze was actually Cosmo Q cherry apple habanero. It's actually a rib glaze, but they recommended that we use it for the ham. And as far as the rub, it was Cosmo Q honey killer bee barbecue rub.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about it earlier. You get to cooking, and sometimes by the time you're done, you've eaten so much of it, you don't feel like eating it. But I tell you what, it was really nice for me and the family to chomp down on some of that ham today. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Me and Brian are looking to put out some episodes about some barbecue and obviously some bourbon. Tonight we're not starting with bourbon. It's a little bit of we're going to go a different approach tonight. We got a couple different scotches that we're going to give a go. We're big into the Johnny Walker. I'll admit that I'm probably more versed in bourbon than Scotch, but this is what we've been drinking a little bit lately. So we got a double black, we got a gold 18 year, and we got a little bit of blue label left. So we're going to be testing those, maybe saying a few things about those type of things. But as we're going to start off on the double black. I think. But,
just curious, what got you into Scotch?
I had some Scotch in West Virginia. I was working out of town, and I didn't like liquor in general. I mean, I had some bourbon at that point that I kind of had liked, but a guy I used to work with named Matt, and I've told him Brian's story a few times. But anyway, I got a couple buddies named Matt that look similar. But this Matt from Freeland Electric, he showed me some kind of, I guess it was Macallan, or have you ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
It's some fancy one, with the sheath or whatever.
Right. Okay, I got you.
And basically he had poured me a little bit, and I wasn't really a fan. So that was my first exposure to Scotch.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I don't really think I had it much. One day I was just like, well, let's try this out. Because Red Label is pretty common. Like, I had heard some stories about people, oh, yeah, my grandfather used to drink Red Label and blah, blah, blah. Because, it's pretty cheap. And then I picked a double black. I think I wanted to expand because I like trying new stuff.
But you did the black first.
I did the black.
You did the black first, which we really liked.
Because that was the easy transition. My whole thing was, I want to try something different. So I'm going to give this another go, even though I didn't like that one a couple years back. I'm like, all right, we'll give this a try. So I just grabbed a double black. It said smoke on it. That's what we like about bourbon so much.
Mm-hmm.
So I just decided, hey, we'll give it a go. And that was real smooth.
Yeah.
We had a fire that night.
Yeah. We had the double black was a. Did we have a cigar that night? No.
Nah, that
okay.
was a little.
That was that Ard, whatever that. Aardvark, whatever that crap.
Wait, I think you messed me up. It's Ardbeg.
It's Ardbeg. I keep calling it Aardvark. It tastes like a tire. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
but it is good. But we're not testing that tonight.
Definitely accurate. But anyway, so I don't think we're, like I said, we're not too well versed in Scotch. I think in general, but we're gonna give it a go. You want to do halves for all, or are we gonna do just one of each?
I'll do one of each. Yeah,
that's fine.
So as far as bourbon's concerned, my first exposure, I was actually on a business trip, and a guy introduced me to what is it? Woodford. Well, Woodford, yeah. So that was our start, and then we'd gotten into a bunch of different kinds. We'll have a later podcast on those, but we'll focus this evening just on the scotches that we have here.
I think, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about bourbon.
Which one's this?
That's the double black.
Okay.
So, but I had a similar. I started off with Maker's Mark. It was cheap, and I really liked it. Good. I liked it a lot. But then once I had some Woodford, it was good. Then Brian turned me on to some double oak, and I think that's like a whole other level. That like blew my mind because I was down there at the $40 price range. Not really touching much above.
Right.
And then that took off. But we're really starting to like these blended scotches a lot.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we stuck to. But I think we're gonna maybe reach out on some different things. But this is always a good go. I mean, I've not been disappointed by many of the Johnny Walkers.
So far, so good. I mean, as far as price point, double black, I think I paid $35. The gold label reserve, I think, was $65. And then the blue label, that really fluctuates. It's like I've seen it anywhere between $225. I think I actually got it for $225 on the high end.
I remember we were thinking about getting that blue label. It was like it was $185.
Yeah.
And then what was it, near Christmas time or something?
Right around Christmas, yeah.
That's I had that $40 jump, but I don't see that coming down the way things are.
No, well, it's funny. Funny story. So I went out today and got the double black and the gold label reserve. Well, the guy had a bottle of blue label sitting on, of course, behind the counter on the top shelf, and the price below it was $165.
Really?
And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I was like, "Is this really once?" No, that's mislabeled. so I swear I would have gotten it if it was like $165 because I've not seen it that low. Yeah. But it was a mislabel.
Some good stuff. And while we're working on this double black, I wanted to talk a little bit back more on the barbecue side. So growing up, what was your dad's big thing with barbecue? Like, did he have like a type of recipe that he liked to hit? I mean, I guess your mom did a lot of cooking too.
Yeah, my mom was the chef of the family. So, and of course, she didn't really barbecue much. And honestly, I didn't really get into barbecue until our friend Craig from church. He bought a offset smoker. Well, no, first he got a green egg, and he was using what's that?
I said it's addicting.
Yeah. So he got a green egg, and he was trying to get me into it then. And I was like, I really don't have the time for it. And, so then he was going to give me the green egg, and he ended up buying a really, really nice offset smoker. This thing needed a footer. It's so heavy. But the stuff that came off that smoker, I mean, he would do this brisket. Now, granted, he's much more of a foodie than I can ever imagine. Mm-hmm. But the food that comes off of that smoker.
The man literally is a scientist.
He's a scientist, and he takes everything. Everything's about chemistry, and
that's his day job.
That's his day job. Yeah. So everything is, he strives for perfection, and it is really good. So Ben, when I don't know when that was.
So I think I had not had brisket till I had started, coming over and having some of Craig's brisket,
Uh-huh.
and it was, I mean, it was definitely mind-boggling. Like
Yeah.
it was just another level, because I mean, I might have seen it like going to barbecue places. Like growing up, it was pulled pork, pit beef. I eat
The
those type of
typical.
things, but I didn't taste much brisket, and his was like a whole other level.
Yeah.
But I had gotten into hunting. I was hunting, shooting a couple deer a year, and I had all this meat laying around, and I wanted to like bring stuff for lunches and stuff like that. So I had all this meat laying around, and like you were getting into, I had wound up purchasing just a small electric.
It was a pit boss, right?
Yeah, and just a wood chip smoker. And the flavor was pretty good out of it. Like the first couple smokes, I was like, man, I've been missing out. Like this is really good. And I honestly, I I made some here and there, but I started to get out of it just because I was cooking for myself most of the time. Like it wasn't getting used much after a while, and I wasn't packing lunches like I was or whatever.
Well, it's a lot of work for one person,
right? Yeah, I mean you have leftovers for like 4 days, which is good, but it's just a lot of work for one guy. So now, fast forward ahead, you want to take it from there?
Yeah. So because his pit boss wasn't being used, he brought it over here to the house. So I started experimenting. I think the first thing I cooked in there was a couple racks of ribs. I think 2 racks of ribs.
Because I started using it. Like I thought we do steaks.
That's right, you did. Yes, yeah. I forgot
which
about that.
It's funny. Most people I talk to, they're like, steaks. That's a weird thing to do in there. I do think retrospectively, a fillet is probably not the easiest thing to do.
There's not a lot of fat.
Smoke. Yeah, because you're not absorbing as much flavor. Like
Right.
you got a brisket with a lot of fat, that flavor is getting infused in with that fat versus a thin cut like that.
Yeah.
So I really love doing ribeyes and that little thing.
Mhm.
But I had done all kinds of deer meat. I think before I brought it over to the house, all that was in there was deer meat. I just
right?
always, I was taking, back roasts, the little bit of the back strap, the rump roast, like I was saying. And I'd take those bigger cuts and smoke, and it was like, it was so good. I'd bring it to like class and stuff, and the guys would be like chomping down on it, over at Carroll. But yeah, that was how I got my start with smoking, and then I brought it over, and we started both using it a little bit, and then it was like your baby there after a while.
Yeah, like as soon as I did those first, I think we could only fit 2 racks, and I had to actually cut the racks in half of ribs to fit them in there. I mean, it's if anybody's familiar with it, it looks like a small refrigerator.
Yeah.
Effective.
It's literally a mini fridge.
Yeah, it's a mini fridge basically, or looks like it. But very effective. But you can't really fit a lot in it. So, of course, we're feeding a family of at the time, I think.
Nikolai might have.
I think Nikolai was here. I don't remember. In any case, there's probably either 5 or 6 people, plus my in-laws live with us, so maybe feeding them as well. But so maximum 8 people, but throwing 2 racks of ribs in there, you could tell it started getting a little small.
Yeah, let's hop back a sec, because I think I had this idea of just going to do ribs one day. Like I had never eaten many ribs like growing up. I might have had them at a restaurant or like Applebee's or whatever. But we went out and got some ribs, and I tried doing them, I think, in the smoker first, and then like I was trying to finish them up on the grill because it was just like I couldn't get the temperature to a certain amount.
Do you remember my first rack?
I don't think so.
It was horrible.
Really?
It was rubber. It was literally rubber.
How did you do it?
I don't remember, but I did it wrong. So talking to...
well, you know what I think some of it was? It was that membrane.
Well, I think that was part of it. We didn't... But it's the membrane's kind
some of it.
It's some people leave it on, some people take it off. I take it off, but I don't know what was going on. It was like rubber. It was not good. We ate it, but it was not good. And then I was talking to a friend of mine, and he says, you got to try the 3-2-1 method. And that's 3 hours smoke, 2 hours covered. And basically he he told me, he said, put, butter, honey, and brown sugar in the when you wrap it in foil. Some people wrap it in paper.
And I think
I'm kind of indifferent.
Before that, didn't we do some apple juice?
So yeah,
I really liked the flavor of that, but I felt like it was just a little bit extra work versus the wrapped in the foil.
Yeah, so we did apple juice inside the foil. That was the first time, or the second time. It was
like we do pans, like the disposable pans, and drop them in there. We had about an inch,
something like that. Yeah,
and I really like that flavor, but it wasn't as tender as we were able to get them through some of these other methods.
Right. The butter, brown sugar, and honey. That's got to be by far the best. So that's the 2 hour, and then you finish it off. Unwrap it, put it back on the smoker, glazed with whatever barbecue for an hour. So it's a 6 hour smoke. But when I did that, it just set the bar up so much higher.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, he was putting me to shame on those ribs.
Yeah, but it's all who you talk to. Everybody has their own thing. So
you got to pick little bits from everybody.
Yeah,
make your own type of thing.
Exactly.
But I mean, I think we didn't know. I mean, every time you do anything like this, it's like you don't know what you're doing. It's just a matter of trying a few things, and eventually, it's like.
Yeah, and I can honestly admit I still don't know what I'm doing. It's getting better and better.
Compared to what we were eating in the beginning.
Yes, I agree.
I thought it was still good. It's better than
It wasn't throwing the trash.
No,
we ate it for sure.
Yeah, but you're saying the smoker is starting to get a little bit small.
Yeah, so after doing the trying to smoke more meat. Well, we wanted to do a brisket, and there's no way a 10, 12, 15 pound brisket was fitting that smoker. No chance at all.
And I think I lost one of the racks on the little smoker.
Right.
So it was already down one, and we were cutting ribs in like half to fit them on there. And it just wasn't enough. We couldn't even do 3 racks of ribs.
No, I could do 2 racks max.
2 racks, and it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. So I ended up kind of biting the bullet, and I bought a Traeger Ironwood 850, I believe, with a pellet smoker, which I love. I mean, people, anybody, you have your purists that do the offset smokers, and they're great, but you got to babysit them. And this thing, you basically throw pellets in it, set the temperature. You can monitor it on your phone. You can change it on your phone. I could actually be at work and be monitoring the smoke.
It's the most utilitarian of
it.
Like it's convenient, and it still delivers a pretty good kind of smoked meat. I think
a guy who's I guess he's adamant offset smoker, but he takes the pellet smoker, at least a Traeger, and he coins it. It's the crock pot with smoke. Which honestly, it's not far from that.
Because you don't have to watch it.
You set it and you forget it. It's now I will say the one advantage to an offset smoker is it will smoke no matter what temperature you're smoking at.
You know what blew my mind about the Traeger was we had airflow problems on that little one. And it was like, whatever, that's just how it is. But, you just couldn't get the amount of smoke that you really wanted in that little guy. Because we were taking, a little blower, and we were blowing on the chips to try to get it. And you don't want them, burning real hot or anything like that. But you want that blue smoke.
Right.
But at the same time, it would go almost to the point where it was out. You'd have half a section of burnt chips. And then the other half was just didn't even catch.
It was a pain.
So it was a lot of work. And then going to the new one was man, we could do that every weekend.
Yeah. So with the pellet smoker, its sweet spot for smoke is anything below 225 degrees. You get above that, or as you approach that 225 degree mark, it's like the quality of smoke on it is a lot less than if you're smoking at 180 degrees.
And the fans. I mean, that's, we were sitting there with a little blower. Now those things, it's got, 2 fans?
It's got 3 fans in the back that basically are exhausting the fire chamber. And it has what they call a super smoke feature, which it does add quite a bit more smoke. But one of the biggest problems I found, if I'm cooking something that's like say for instance, this ham was at 275. You're not going to see any smoke off of it. So what I did to try to resolve that was I bought and a lot of people. I bought one of those smoke tubes. Basically, you fill it with pellets, you light it, and then it adds the smoke at any temperature. Yeah, definitely game changer.
I'd even drop the Amazon thing in the bio because, like on the episode link, because it's that, it's a game changer.
It sets it above.
I think what you lose in that higher temperature, you can regain with that tube for sure.
The one thing you have to be.
Did you find that?
I saw it on YouTube somewhere. And there's people that are adamantly against it. There's people that are, they wouldn't cook. Yeah, we love it. The one thing I will say is you got to be careful that if the quality of smoke coming off that tube is what they call somewhat dirty, so you got to be careful is that you don't add too much and you don't have it smoked too long, or that flavor will get into the meat.
So for someone who's never seen this thing before, like what's the setup?
So. And as far as what does it look like?
Yeah, as far as like what you do.
So so the tube, it's about 12 inches long, probably 1 maybe 2 inches in diameter, basically, and it's got perforated holes throughout the length of the tube all around. Somewhat of it's a hexagon. It's a hexagonal shape. 5 of the 6 sides have holes in it. The bottom is solid, so that's what you put on the bottom. That's what you set it on. So basically, you fill it with pellets. The bottom end's closed, the top end's open, and I use this little butane torch that
I'll get it going. How long do you set the flame?
It takes a couple times. Like I'll get it and I'll ignite it. I'll let it burn. I'll go out about 15 minutes later, check it, and of course the flame's out. And most of the time, it's not smoking at that point. So I'll hit it again. I'll let it ignite. Close the lid, let the flame burn out a little bit. After about the third time, then I'm getting a healthy, decent.
And that thing rolls for a while. Once you get it really good.
So that this one lasted 6 hours. Like when we did this ham, I did the thing on there, and it was those pellets lasted 6 hours.
And it really helps get that smoke in with a high temp. We got a friend that does these briskets. We prefer the low and slow method for sure. But he runs them high and hot and fast or whatever. Right. And what he's only doing is 6 hour cook. And I feel like a tube like that would really help.
Oh, absolutely.
But this tube, all you do is you set it right on the rack on the grill. It's just straight on the smoker and it just sits there and just kind of adds a little bit more flavor in it. And it's good.
Yeah. And depending on your smoker, like if you have, like our exhaust out of our smoker is out basically the back. Sometimes you'll have a smoker that has a flue that comes out either the right or left side. It's usually opposite where you put the pellets or the wood. You want to have the smoke opposite that flue because you want the smoke to kind of roll across the meat, basically.
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you put it on the flue side, then it's going to go right.
Left side, and I was like, I don't know why.
I put it on this side because, our smoker is. Basically, it's got 3 fans at the back of it, so it doesn't really matter where you put it. But for somebody that has you've got your combustion chamber on the one side, and you've got your flue on the other. You want to put it opposite your flue, so you get that nice smoke right across the meat. So Ben's hitting the gold label. So the double black, that's right now. That's still
great for the price point. Man.
Yeah, $35, and I love that dark oaky taste.
I mean, it definitely is a Scotch, but it has everything you love about like the bourbon.
Yeah, I think the actual term is peat. It's got a peaty taste. Yeah. An aardvark, or what is it? What do they call it?
So it's Ardbeg.
Ardbeg.
It's very potent. It's one of those things where
it's a tire.
You think of a Scotch, and it doesn't really punch you in the face compared to some other things. But that Ardbeg is got it cuts through anything, and it's great with a strong cigar.
Oh my gosh. With a cigar, it is.
We were sitting out there, and it was probably 15 degrees or something.
My hands were numb.
We were coming in, warming up and everything throughout the wintertime. But man, that is such a good.
That's the cigar. Yeah, the cigar and the Ardbeg.
Hey, if any of you guys out there listening have a suggestion on a combo, we're always looking to try some things.
Yeah.
So I had just a Romeo and Juliet with a blue label on the cigar. I don't remember what it's called, but it was a little stronger, but I really liked it.
Yeah, I don't know that I could have had the Ardbeg by itself.
No,
it's like it wouldn't have been enjoyable.
It's not.
It's so it's a threefold thing to me. It's like you need the Ardbeg, you need a cigar, and you need a fire to warm up.
Yeah.
I mean, those three things combined. I mean, the atmosphere, and of course, it was dark out.
Mm-hmm.
But that was an enjoyable time
for sure. Yeah, and honestly, I think it'd be fun to do that with a good smoke sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we got something going on the grill, but do you want to talk about maybe the first brisket you had going on that Traeger of yours?
Yeah, so the first brisket. I mean, of course, like I follow Malcolm Reed probably as gospel according to barbecue.
He was like, man, check this out.
Yeah,
he pulled me over there and be like, hey, look at this YouTube video, and it's like, oh, so good.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the guy knows what he's doing. I don't know if he does this professionally, but he should because, I mean, he's got a full outfit on his back porch. But basically, so he does a low and slow cook. So, just to, as a quick summary, basically, once you've got to prepare the brisket, of course, and you guys can search on YouTube on how to do that as far as trimming it. And there is one vein of fat that you got to get out of it because it won't render like at the bottom. So at the bottom of the brisket, there's this base fat that will render, but there's this vein of fat. I can't remember what they call it. It starts with a D, but you got to get that cut out. But in any case, once you do that, then you hit it with a rub, and he has this hot rub.
Is sometimes tough to get off of those briskets.
Yeah, it probably takes me about a half hour to trim it.
If you're doing it right.
If you're doing it right. And honestly, there's a lot, like you could start out with a 14-pound brisket and you end up with a 12-pound on the grill. And you literally trim two pounds worth of stuff.
You say that, back to the venison side of things, it's so different when it comes to cooking like a wild piece of meat versus your a raised cow, because in the venison world, every bit of fat is
there's not a lot of fat, right?
But there's not a lot of fat. Generally, it's lean, but that fat does not cook well.
Right.
You want to get every bit of that out, even to the point where even in the ground, you kind of want to keep those pieces out as much as you can because it does not cook well.
Is that right?
No, and I don't know what the reasoning is for that, or maybe it's just their diet. I don't know. I mean, you're not like, with a piece of beef, maybe you got a lot of corn in there, right, and it really flavors it nice. But with them, it's like you want to get every piece out.
See, I didn't know that.
But then it's like domestic. It's, I love the fat. Keep it on there. I mean, obviously there is a point where you got to get some pieces off of there,
right?
So you're not chewing only fat, but a little bit of piece here and there is, it adds a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So as far as the trimming goes, once you get it trimmed, then now this is 11 o'clock at night, the night before, so this is a long, slow cook. Yeah. So usually 9 o'clock the evening before, I'll start trimming it. I'll finish it up. I'll hit it with some rub. Then I'll throw it in the refrigerator for probably 2 hours, 2-3 hours.
And what have you been using lately? I mean, what was the first? We had a lot of coffee stuff, didn't we? Early
so
on?
Traeger has a coffee rub, which I like.
I heard a lot of good things about using coffee.
It's not bad. It's expensive. I'll tell you. It's a small amount of rub for a lot of money.
Would you ever consider doing your own coffee separate and then making a mix, or?
Well, yeah. As I get more into it and I get better,
because I'd like to try that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind trying that. Trying, and a lot of people, they make their own rubs. I mean, they combine their own seasonings, and I follow a lot of these guys on YouTube, and everybody's got their own thing, and they're I think
it's fun though.
It is fun. It's
little bits, and
it's a science, is what it is. Yep. So this, Malcolm Reeves, he's got this AP rub, and of course his. I've kind of grown into his Killer Hogs hot rub, so I'll throw that on it I'll hit it with the AP rub first, and then I'll throw the Killer Hogs hot barbecue rub, and then I let it sit there and sweat in the refrigerator for about probably 2 hours.
Gold is good.
Yeah, I like the gold.
This Johnny Walker Gold is 18.
That's smooth.
So good.
Well, it's not. It's not weird. 18? No, okay. It's not aged.
I don't know why. Did we get the 18 last
So we got the 18 last time.
So I misinterpreted that.
Yeah. So this is Gold Reserve, which is a blend. Basically, it's a blend. This?
I think we went over that earlier.
That was 65.
But that's,
yeah. So I mean, it's comparable to the Gold 18.
Yeah, honestly.
Now the with the Reserve, what it is they won't tell you what the age of the blend is. The age of anytime you deal with a blended Scotch, the oldest component of that blend determines the age.
Really?
Yes.
I think I remember seeing that on Blue Label where it says that.
Well, Blue Label's not aged. Like if you won't see a year on Blue Label.
Okay.
It's dated. I would say dated. It's not dated.
Okay, so it doesn't tell you, but there's some people that like to speculate.
Right.
But you're saying what were you saying about the Reserve? So
the Reserve is similar to the Blue Label that it's not dated. I'd use the incorrect term. It's not dated, but when they date a whiskey or a Scotch, to my knowledge, if it's dated, then the oldest component of that blend determines the date. Scotches, I've not seen a pure Scotch. It's always been blended. Now you have your 18, your 12s, and I've even seen a 5, which I don't know if I would buy that. But in any case, so I mean, this is, like I said, the blue is the black, the double black. Is that dated? I don't think that one's dated either. It is, no. Yeah. So, honestly, I'm not I don't really care whether it's dated or not. I mean, it's this Gold Label Reserve is really good.
I don't think we have an understanding as much as we do with the bourbon as far as
correct goes. And we're not snobs.
Yeah, we're not picky.
We're not sitting here. Why I'm sniffing it, but
we got the fancy Glencairn. I mean, don't let us fool you. We definitely have a little bit of experience, but just like anyone, we're learning. So.
Yeah, it's a learning. There's a big learning curve.
But I felt like we knew our stuff when we were watching a movie the other day, and the guy pulled out Blue Label, and we're like looking at each other. Oh yeah, I know what that is. That is. They don't even show what it is, and you just see the
bottle,
and I know what that is.
Well, they say Blue.
And last night at that Harry Potter movie or whatever, what's it called again? The whole time I'm looking at the bar on the train to see if I recognize anything. Like that's all I care about.
It's the newest release of Fantastic.
I highly recommend it. Yeah, it was pretty good for sure.
Yeah, well, they say Blue Label. It's of the $200, you're paying for $100 worth of Scotch and $100 worth of packaging, but it's still really good.
Well, that's for
sure. It comes in. It's like I'll never throw that box away. That's for sure. But anyway, back to the brisket. So I throw it on the smoker 11 o'clock at night, and I let it go 8 hours. And I'm running around, I think 180 to 200. At that point in time, I'm not using the smoke tube because I can get a decent amount of smoke off of it at those temperatures. And then I'll get up 7 o'clock in the morning, check the temperature. If I'm sitting around.
So after this initial couple hours, overnight, what are you hitting like temperature wise in the morning?
So in the morning, I'm looking to hit like 160.
160.
Yeah. So once it hits 160, that's when I'll wrap it. So usually when I wake up, it's about there. It's 155, 160, and then of course 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting there wrapping it, and I'm not doing anything other than one time I tried paper, one time I tried foil. Honestly,
the paper looks really cool. Like it looked nice, and it turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that it holds the moisture.
Well, that's the thing with the paper. The paper is not designed to hold the moisture. It will wick some of the moisture out. So I usually put a pan of water in the grill or in the smoker, whatever. But the paper really helps harden the bark. It's like if you're trying to go for like a real crusty bark, that you want to use paper. If you don't care about the bark and you care about moisture, then foil it.
Yeah.
that keeps the moisture in.
I think it turns out better that way. I mean,
Yeah.
at least in our experience. I mean, if you were looking for a different, I mean, if you like a little bit of that bark, I mean, that's good. But
I love the bark.
Yeah.
I prefer to do it in paper. Paper's a little more work, rather than foiling it. But I think I've only used paper twice, and the other times that we've done it, I've used foil. And honestly, when you get down into the meat, it's
and our friend with the offset,
he's all about foil.
He's all about foil, and
Yeah.
I think it really turns out good as far as like keeping it moist.
Yeah, it keeps it moist, and when you squeeze the
Like,
point.
I agree with you that the bark is a nice addition, but we've had cases where the flat on the brisket dries out.
The flat will dry out quicker than anything. That's the thing you gotta watch.
That's the problem. You know, I do think that some of those other, the point on one of those first couple smokes where you wrapped it in paper, that point was delicious. I mean, it was incredible.
It was candy,
and I think it was so good because it had that extra crispiness.
Yeah,
but you don't get that with the foil.
Yeah, you don't get it with the foil.
It's a trade-off for sure. You have a whole cut that tastes fairly good, but it's not to the level as that point is wrapped.
Correct.
But still really good stuff.
Yeah, I will say the foil is a lot easier. I think I prefer the paper.
What do you think makes it easier as far as just the whole wrapping?
Just wrapping the paper is difficult because
getting it tight.
So
what do? You hit a piece of tape on there?
No, so
straight.
The briskets that we buy are relatively large, and they won't fit with one roll of paper.
Really?
So you got to double it. So basically, you lay out a thing of paper, set your brisket on, and then you got to
do one side.
You got to roll it into the paper. It's a little. I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, I'm making more of it than what it actually is.
But it's hard to get it tight, I guess.
It's hard to get it tight, And once you set it on there, it's then you're good to go. But it is a little more labor intensive than foil is. Foil is easy.
Yeah.
In fact, I could put the brisket in a pan and cover it with foil and get the same effect.
It's funny you say that because I think one of my first exposures to brisket was Corinne and I. We had done like a Dutch oven where we cut all the fat off the bottom, that little
the fat cap,
and we put it straight in this Dutch oven. We like kind of seared it, which was weird to do it in something like that, and then poured some broth and then cooked it for 4 hours and made sliders out of it, and it was really, really good. But that was like my first exposure.
Right.
And it turned out really great because the juices were...
That was brisket truly in a crock pot.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, yeah, the Dutch oven was interesting. I think we had put a bunch of onions in there and stuff like that, but those sliders turned out really good.
Yeah. So after the 8 hours...
How many do you think you made at this point? Briskets?
I think I've done 6 so far. Yeah. I alternate. Usually I'll do a brisket. Let's see. So when my wife Amanda runs the Costco, we get all our meats from Costco. It's probably I don't know about now, but it's probably the cheapest, highest quality meat that you can get. So we'll get it. So we'll usually do a brisket. We'll do a couple racks of ribs. We'll get some wings. What else do we get? I've been messing around with prime rib. I've got some rib roast. I've got rib roast in the freezer that we need to try.
Okay. I want to do an aged.
Yes, we want to try aged.
It doesn't matter like what it is, but if you get a hunk,
yeah.
And with the wet bag or whatever, that just looks so appealing. I think what really made me excited about that was this past New Year's.
Where did we see that?
Well, we had watched a video on it somewhere, but anyway.
I just spilled $200 whiskey. That sucks. God.
Anyway, what did we have for New Year's this year as far as the steaks go? Were they New York strips? But they were.
No, I'll say those were Wagyu.
Wagyu.
They were Wagyu New York strips.
So good. The best cut of meat. I've never had. Craig did a great job.
Yeah, I'm scared to cook them. I kid you not. It's such an expensive cut of meat. I'm scared to cook them.
We had that and Bland's, and I thought,
oh my gosh,
on top of the world.
Yeah,
You know?
Bland's by far.
Bland's knocks like it is all the hype in our opinion.
We finished off the Bland's that evening. It was New Year's Eve, and I'm missing it.
Yeah,
it's like it's a tough bourbon to find.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, it's not easy. But going back to that meat, that Wagyu, it was so like not like a good quality flavor on that fat. Like
yes,
I've never had a cut where I'm like.
And what did I do?
I was like the only one going back for seconds. Like I didn't care. Like I was gonna eat all of it because it was so good with that fat.
Yeah, and I cut it off and threw it in the trash.
Well, you cut some of it off because somebody had recommended to trim it a little bit, but
I agree with you.
Every little bit of that fat is delicious.
It was that's right. It was a Wagyu New York strip. No, Kobe. It was Kobe Wagyu.
And so what our friend had done was he took just a cast iron skillet and got them real hot, as hot as he could get them, and threw them on there. He maybe like 4 or 5. 3 minutes maybe aside. I mean, it wasn't much. And he was scared that he ruined it. Yeah. Like, he legitimately thought that he'd ruined it, and then it was, like, cooked perfectly. Mm. I mean, I definitely like my steaks rare, and it was right there at that medium rare type of range where everybody was comfortable with.
But it was cut it like a fork. Cut it with a fork. Yeah. I got more in there.
So we got the Blue Label out now.
So what are your take a sip of the blue.
It's really good
compared to the gold.
What I like about the Blue Label is it's got a little bit of like a spice, and then it like dissipates.
Yeah.
Like a lot of whiskeys and a lot of other scotches, like they might have a little bit of bite at the end, but there's no bite.
No. This had, like you said, the bourbon. Some of the bourbons and the other scotches that we have a hard, what they call a hard back end.
Yeah. Like you have a little bit of.
This doesn't.
It's a little bit of flavor in the beginning, but the end.
It hits you a little bit in the beginning. Yeah, it just disappears, and it's like it's just smooth. It's I will say the Blue Label is by far. Yeah. I don't know that it's worth $225, but
so what was really interesting to me is on New Year's when we had a bunch of stuff lined up. We had scotch and some bourbon, but we went from Maker's Mark. We went from Blue Label to Maker's Mark, and Maker's Mark was really good with the contrast.
We went for the scotches. We went Red Label to Blue Label.
Yep.
And then for the bourbons, we went Maker's Mark to Bland's
because we had red, and then we went to black. Do we have double black?
We had red, double black, gold,
green. Actually.
I'm sorry, green.
I've had green in a minute.
We had red, double black, green, and then blue on the Scotch side. And then on the bourbon side, we had Maker's Mark, which was a low end.
Yeah.
We had Old Forester. We had Pikesville.
No, we didn't have Pikesville. We had something else at that point because Pikesville is a rye.
Maybe you're right.
So we had
Old Forester. I know.
We had Widow Jane.
Widow Jane, that's right.
We had 13,
oh my gosh.
We had 13 year, which,
That's right, the Widow Jane 13.
Everybody has that hype about the older age bourbon, but that older age bourbon doesn't always mean it's better.
I forgot about that.
I really wasn't a fan.
I didn't like the 13
I liked the regular Widow Jane, and apparently that's getting more and more popular. Like I had met somebody the other day, and we just started talking about stuff, and he was like, "Oh, you got to try this Widow Jane." I'm like, "I know, like it is good."
So how many people have you turned on the Widow Jane?
Well, people have come to me about it, just talking in the casual conversation. I might have mentioned it to maybe 2 or 3 people.
Is that right?
But I've had people suggest it to me, and I'm like, it's great. Yeah.
So how we came. So Widow Jane is not a well-known bourbon.
No.
Like if you say Widow Jane, nobody's gonna know what you're talking about.
And I think it might be an East Coast type of thing.
It may be. I don't know where it comes from.
It's New York.
Isn't it? That's right. It is New York. That's right. So our friend Craig and I, we were doing a thing on the top 10 bourbons, and Widow Jane was like number 2 or 3. I believe. Bland's was, of course, number one. And that's
we're
what
gonna
got.
bring him on the podcast
Yes.
at some point.
Yes,
But
I agree.
he's got a lot of
He's got a wealth of knowledge.
because I think initially it was Jefferson's. He had suggested we love Jefferson's Ocean. That we haven't had it in a minute, but then it went from that to Widow Jane, and that's definitely been a hit.
So the liquor store that I frequent actually is just right up the street from our house. They didn't have it, but now they stock it, and they'll stock it. Usually, I think they keep at least 6 or 8 on tap or on the shelf.
It, right?
No, I suggested it. So now they sell the crap out of that. It's like ridiculous. Then he said about the Widow Jane 13 year, and I bought that and disappointed.
I think it was just a little too harsh.
Yeah, I did not like it.
The back end bite was tough, and like you're looking at limestone mixed water. I don't know how the filtration works, but I felt like it was just a little too harsh. You know? And I felt like I tasted the limestone to an extra extent.
I agree.
And I don't know how they deal with that in the brewery.
Yeah, I'm not, or the distillery,
like a distillery.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's like don't ever that taught me a lesson. It's like don't ever buy a bottle of bourbon because it's a higher age. Yeah. It's like it's an older bourbon. It's like it doesn't necessarily make it better.
And sometimes I feel like even like something like Blanton's, like they don't tell you how old everything is, but I don't think it's.
Well, Blanton's not dated.
I don't think it's on the higher end of the age. I swear it's probably somewhere in that like 7 to 10 year range.
I agree.
It can't be any more than that.
I agree.
I really don't think it is.
I wanna. Well, the one bourbon I want to get is Buffalo Trace. Like there's some sort of anything from that distillery.
Stonebridge the other day had it.
Oh really?
Yeah, had it over there. So next time we go out there, we should try it. I actually had Pappy. What is it? Is it 12 year? I had Pappy for the first time, and it blew my mind.
Huh.
I wish I had it neat because it was, a friend of mine had bought it for me, and I was like, that's fine. But I think trying stuff neat has taken it to a whole nother level. But anyway, even on ice, Pappy was all the hype. I mean, I wouldn't want to pay for it myself. I thought Blanton's was a lot of money to begin with, and it definitely delivered. But Pappy's very good. I mean, very solid. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even want to know what he paid for that. So
I will say that the New Year's Eve taste test of 4 scotches and 4 bourbons. The Bland's,
we got a picture.
The Bland's was by far.
We had a picture on the website of what we ran through on New Year's, and you can go ahead and check out our website at Brian and Ben's BBQandBourbon.com on Squarespace.
Yeah, BBQ and bourbon.
BBQ and bourbon, and it has the whole lineup of what we ran through, and it was a good time. I highly suggest getting together with some friends and running through a taste test like that because it was really fun.
And only do half shots.
It definitely catches up on you.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, we love talking about whiskey and barbecue and everything, and we're looking to put out some podcasts here. We're going to bring some more content to you, hopefully within the next month. And we really enjoyed this. And go ahead and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Please share this with all your friends, and we'll be back with some more quality barbecue content and general whiskey. Bourbon's definitely what we love. But we'll be back to you with some bourbon reviews. And anyway, with that being said, we're done.
We're done. Take care, guys.